Welcome to Franchise Tag. Today I'm just going to be doing a quick reaction video to Jared Goff's contract. As a Lions fan, I kind of know more ins and outs than most people who are just kind of seeing the news pop up about how much he got paid and not really having an idea of how to justify that for Jared Goff. So I want to kind of get my opinions out there and also shed some light on some things that go on inside the organization that I've just noticed throughout my years as being a fan. So getting straight into it, Jared Goff today signed, and this is being recorded the 13th. Today signed a 4-year, $212 million contract with $170 million guaranteed, which is a 53 average at maximum cap hit with a 42.5 average guaranteed cap hit. Now, a preface for this is some stats that I saw propping up is in the past 2 years as the starter for the Detroit Lions, Jared Goff is second in the league for passing yards, third in passing touchdowns, fourth in quarterback wins, and I won't say that I buy much into quarterback wins as a stat, as an all-encompassing stat for every quarterback, but when you see how our defense has really been lackluster for the past couple of years, I think that this is more relevant in the case here as opposed to like other win rates for other teams, like Mahomes this past season with that really good defense. And another note of like accolades for Jared Goff is this past season, they ended a 30-year playoff drought for the Lions with a playoff win. And I won't lie and say that, the entire playoff push is Jared Goff. He put the team on his back because anytime you say that an individual in a team sport is responsible for everything, you're just wrong, and it's a redundant argument to make. But I do want to give Jared Goff flowers for the accomplishments he's had in these 3 years as a Lion, and more so in that the ability that he earned himself this contract. He came into a adverse situation with the Lions, and he worked through it all to go from being booed when he first walked out because this is not Matt Stafford. We traded away Matt Stafford. What are we doing? Boo the new guy in town to then having the Jared Goff chance that went down when he then took the field in the playoffs against Matthew Stafford. I think that it's definitely a comeback story and a real switch of the kind of public perception of Jared Goff, thanks to his play, thanks to the way he's held himself in all meetings and all interviews with the team, whether they were winning or losing. And I think that majority of the past 2 seasons of success can be attributed to the offensive scheme of Ben Johnson, but the offensive scheme needs a conductor. It needs a Jared Goff to take the reins and lead the offensive drive down the field, lead the offense out there. And while him and his teammates, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Penei Sewell, have gotten themselves bags, and I think they've gotten themselves bags thanks to their utilization within Ben Johnson's scheme. Prior to this, he's an ex-Chargers. He was the Chargers ex-head coach at the time of signing Anthony something. He was our offensive coordinator for a 3-13-1 season. He was clearly out. Dan Campbell took over the play calling role, and Dan Campbell also recognized, hey, Ben Johnson seems pretty good at this. We'll pass the reins over to this and let him be the offensive coordinator and him call the plays. So the organization, the coaching structure has all benefited Jared Goff. It's all benefited the offense. All of it comes together to allow them to put up the stats they have, where in 2 seasons now, the Lions have been top 5 in offense. Now, while you can see that the top 5 in offense is not super indicative of Jared Goff's play alone, the Lions run the ball so much. We ran the ball enough to get Jamal Williams the all-time Lions rushing TD record over Barry Sanders because we just gave him the ball that much at the goal line. The offensive scheme of the Lions is we're going to run it at you and we're going to be able to win off of the play action because we run it at you so much. Jared Goff is just a conductor of that scheme. He isn't a Mahomes. He isn't a Lamar Jackson. He's not Jalen Hurts. He's not the thing that the scheme is built around, albeit he kind of is in a different way with his ability and play actions, but he isn't like, you know, a rushing threat that they're going to scheme everything to run through him. He's a game manager, and that's not a diss at all. I don't like that that word's kind of gotten a negative connotation. I would say that the quarterback market is a little bit out of whack these past couple of years where, you won't see as many guys where you're going to look at the rankings of average annual contract worth and be like, yeah, Patrick Mahomes is tied seventh in that to Kirk Cousins when Patrick Mahomes really isn't outside of a top two conversation, and I would never even have him outside of the top one conversation. The contracts just do not reflect the quality of player at this moment. With the fact that Jared Goff is now the second highest paid quarterback behind Joe Burrow, it's kind of that same facet where I don't believe that Jared Goff is a top two quarterback in the league, but I do believe that he is a great quarterback in the league that is now getting these flowers from an organization who values him as that conductor, as the game manager of the team. Now, when you look at it more so from this organizational standpoint, Brad Holmes, the GM of the Lions, who worked with the Rams when they scouted and drafted Jared Goff, has always had a lot of belief and trust in Jared Goff and his ability. That's why he made the trade to send Stafford to the Rams and get Jared Goff. Because Jared Goff wasn't a bridge quarterback in his mind. He was still a franchise caliber starting quarterback who was going to be able to help him through this rebuild. Now, as the team's rebuilt, they have more positions that, or rather, they have less positions which are really needy, especially after this past draft. They are able to now start paying out the bags to these guys, to Panay, to Amon-Ra St. Brown, and to Jared Goff, who have helped build up this roster. Jared Goff, he understands the culture, he understands the city, and he understands the offensive scheme of this team more than anyone. You can't say that, oh, after this year, we're going to let Jared Goff walk because we don't want to pay him the $53 million. You have to kind of give him that money because the alternative is you're going to let Hendon Hooker kind of step up and hope that you don't lose much of the offensive production. They now are setting up that defense better through the draft, through the free agent period, and they just want to keep this core offense together. So if you're, Brad Holmes has been on record to say that it is easier to get worse at the quarterback position than to get better. If they let Jared Goff go, where's that next avenue? Who's coming into the free agent market next season that they can rely on to be there? It's not really going to be anyone that's on Jared Goff's level. And if you want to draft a rookie quarterback, that's a whole different can of worms now that you have to develop this quarterback from scratch and you have to make sure that all of the pieces which are around Jared Goff also fit with that quarterback's mentality and that quarterback has the right mentality. So now there's all of these different facets coming into play when instead you have Jared Goff's agents come to you and you want Jared Goff. You have this belief in Jared Goff as Brad Holmes does. And, they come to you with these stats of over the past 2 years, Jared Goff is this in passing yards and he's this in passing touchdowns. Why aren't we reflecting that in his pay? So when you see these multiple top five statistic categories that he's in, how are you going to say, well, we can't give him top five money for that? Top five money is exorbitant amounts of money, especially for quarterbacks. It's upwards of 50 million. So now you're in that boat of, okay, well, we're going to have to give him 50 million. And we also don't want him to leave the building at all. So do we really have that much negotiating power? If we were okay with him leaving and we had the succession plan lined up, the Falcons for some reason, then it would be a little bit different where going into contract negotiations, Jared Goff's a little more defensive. He wants to keep that starting job. He knows that his job's on the line if he were to not accept a contract, but it's not like that. He's been a top five quarterback statistically for the past 2 seasons. And so why would Brad Holmes, someone who wants Jared Goff to be there, lowball his agents. He just won it. And his agents won't have to play bully ball because Jared Goff genuinely likes being in Detroit. And it's this mutual beneficial relationship for the two of them where, okay, we're going to pay you what you're worth and maybe a little bit extra because that's what the quarterback market has been doing. We're paying people more than they're worth because we want you in town. And that's kind of how it's always been. So at the end of the day, the Lions re-signing Jared Goff extends the playoff window. It extends the Super Bowl window for the team because you're making sure you have a good conductor for the team for the next 4 years. And it's an extension on top of the year that he's already going to play. So you have this next season and then 4 years after that of Jared Goff being at the helm, who understands the team and is just really engrossed in Detroit as a culture. So why shun away that quarterback by not offering him what he's worth and a little bit extra? My only hope as a Lions fan is that Sheila Ford Hamp starts coughing up some of the automotive cash they hopefully got tucked away so we can keep those cap hits a little low and, have some restructuring bonuses in there to kind of stay flexible as we move through the next 4 years where we have extended Panay, Amon Ra, and Jared Goff each for a 4 year extension, all of them an extension a year early. So we have them all for the next 5 years, but it's going to get muddy trying to navigate that cap hit when all of them are increasing at that same time. So that's really all of my thoughts on the Jared Goff payday that just happened. It is definitely shocking, but it was also shocking to see Amon Ra get paid the most out of any wide receiver. Granted, that immediately then got toppled, which is something that's going to happen with this as well. Jared Goff's the second highest paid now, and I bet by the time regular season rolls around, he might be third. By the time the extension actually gets underway, he might be fourth or fifth. Just how the league kind of goes. You got to pay him more to keep him in town. I'm glad that Jared Goff is staying in town. And with that, deuces.